So we put out a book called Party of 12, The Afterlife Interviews. But that's how I met Einstein. And then I wanted to just do a book for him. And on the 100-year anniversary of E equals MC squared and all his other 4 miracle year, whatever, I channeled 6 or 7 sessions and transcribed them and set about to edit. And I didn't know what he was going to say. It turns out he delivered a unified field theory, which is something he couldn't do in life. And it included what he called the map of human consciousness, with these 3 human dimensions that we work with, and a scientific quantifiable definition of compassion with a capital C as the 5th fundamental force of the universe, as the creative intelligence that uses the other 4 fundamental forces to impel the creation of the physical world one step at a time.
Well, welcome to the Casual Temple. This week, we have the opportunity to hang out with the one and only Barbara With. Barbara is a globetrotting peace activist, award-winning author and publisher, a psychic channel, composer, and performer. Plus, she's the co-founder of Conflict Revolution, a game-changing method that's all about making peace with your inner battle using a little help channeling Albert Einstein's wisdom. Oh, I'm so excited to have Barbara on the show. So Barbara shares her vast knowledge and insights on Einstein's unified field theory, exploring the intricate maps of human consciousness and preaching the science of compassion in classrooms all around the world and on Zoom. Barbara, I'm so happy to get to chat with you and all about all the cool things that you do.
Oh, Marilee, thanks for having me. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, thank you. I really love cats, so I'll have to know who your cat is.
I am pet sitting.
Pet sitting.
We were talking about my globetrotting.
Yeah.
I spent the winter pet sitting my way across the UK.
Oh, awesome. I have a friend who does that too. That's really cool.
So this is my pet sit up in the mountains. And until this show, this cat has been very far away. But when the recording started, suddenly, now she's got to be here. So this is Daisy.
Hi, Daisy. Okay, well, I have that effect on kitty cats, so
apparently. So it's like, here she comes.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you and Daisy. Well, like we just kind of get started from the beginning. And you have a really cool story about, kind of what led to what you're doing today. So can you kind of tell us where you started?
Yeah, I started as a psychic channel officially in 1987. It was preceded by being a songwriter. I started writing music when I was 12. And by the time I was out of high school, I had 2 sets of original material, and I just went on the road for 20 years as in rock and roll and such, all kinds of music. And when I came in off the road is when I learned that I could channel.
Wow. Cool. Do you think that the songwriting was sort of like a kind of an in for channeling? Seems
Definitely.
like it's similar. Oh, really?
Definitely. Because it's both, if you think about it, it's about listening. I don't know how many of your people who follow you are practitioners of intuitive arts, as I call it. But really, I always described songwriting as going into the nothingness and going and listening for a song and then somehow figuring out, what the melody was, what the words were, what the rhythm was. And so that kind of set me up of complex systems for when it came time to be listening to other voices.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, I didn't look for it. And it was something more that came upon me only because my friend in high school, all those many years ago, his mom was we didn't call them channels. She was she gave readings.
Oh.
And she would go into a trance and not remember anything she said. And she said she was a big antenna.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew what it was. I went to her for many years before I started to spontaneously automatic write and
Mm,
start to channel. But when it happened, when it overcame me that day in 1987, while I was writing a letter to somebody, and suddenly, ooh, that's not what I was going to say. It's not the direction I was going.
mm,
And because I knew what it was, I thought, oh my gosh, I can do this. Okay, so let's start asking some questions.
mm-hmm.
Who are
Yeah.
you? Who are
Right.
you? And the answer was sound. And having been immersed in sound my whole entire life, it was made kind of sense and
Yeah.
sort of dissociative in a way, I guess. And I
Yeah.
was okay with it. I was an antenna. That's how it was. So, and it wasn't until 1993 when I started to do channel for groups. I started organizing groups with two other women, Kim and Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
We called ourselves the Psychic Sorority. And we have these groups in our living room, and I would channel and we record it and transcribe it. And that was really the beginning of finding my way to Einstein.
Wow. That's such a cool thing. And I like how you said it was something that just kind of came in, like kind of came in and you noticed it. Um, can, I know this is a hard question because I get asked this question because I do sort of psychic readings, Um, but like, how do you know, right? How do you know it's not you, it's not Barbara and your imagination, but something else? Do you,
I would say personally,
yeah,
I've been put through a lot of tests since 1987
wow.
when I started to do this. And I purposefully did a course of study that I just made up myself because I'm a self teacher, right?
Yeah.
I taught myself piano, I taught myself everything. Anyway,
Wow.
so I would get a reading from my mentor, the antenna.
Hmm.
I'd write it down because this was even before there were recording devices that you could carry around.
Right.
Back with the dinosaurs.
Right.
And and then I would write down what I thought the predictions
Mm,
meant. Oh, this is what this must mean because a lot of the language is it's more parable like than
right.
it is totally, you're gonna on this day, this is gonna happen to you. So, and then I would pass through time
Mm,
and see what it really was.
wow.
And so that was one way, and that's some way I recommend for people who are studying. Like if you're studying tarot,
Mm.
I did that a lot with tarot, where I would throw the cards, I'd write down what they were, I'd write down what I thought they meant, and then at the end of the day, I'd write down what really happened.
Right. To compare.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then there's just plain old, the hard lessons of being wrong,
Yeah.
learning.
Like, ooh.
Yeah, right.
Ah,
That's what it's there for.
yeah, it totally. Yeah. Thank you for walking us through that. That's a lot of like testing and then getting the validation and learning what isn't it, right? With the oops, like that wasn't the right thing or, whatever it was.
Well, and bringing together the three of us, me and Kim and
Yes.
Teresa, was
Yeah.
very purposeful in this long-term plan to
Hmm.
not only witness each other
Right.
and document from all three of our perspective, because that's my first book, Diaries of a Psychic Sorority,
Mm.
is our diaries as we were moving through this time of coming together and listening to the angels. They called themselves angels and writing down and doing what they tell us to do and what happened. It was really remarkable.
Oh, amazing. Would you say that did you have including the psychic sorority, did you have and maybe your antenna? Were those like your main, like your antenna person, your antenna mentor? Were they like your main sources of like guidance? kind of in the beginning?
I think so. I
Yeah.
I had such a hunger for Jane Roberts. She was a channel many years ago, did Seth, channeled Seth. Edgar Casey, kind of the old school spiritualist stuff. And so I was always interested in that. And also the music coming from, I'll always admit, a traumatized youth. You
Mm,
know, there was a lot of dissociation in my youth
right.
because of abuse and trauma,
Hmm.
but often that's the place where then you get this, it becomes easier to do stuff like channeling and songwriting,
That's true.
oddly.
Yeah, but I think you put your finger right on it as like that disassociation, which yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean that you kind of figured that out. Not great that you went through that, but like
Yeah.
that you were like, oh, there's some sort of way that led you into it. That's very interesting. Um, so you talked about the psychic sorority. Can you tell us how that evolved into are you still working with them or how did that sort of evolve into what you're doing today?
Well, it evolved because in 1993, after doing these readings,
Yeah.
I wanted to do groups, and
Yeah.
no one in my clientele was interested.
Mm,
And so this new woman came, Teresa, and then she brought a
mm,
bunch of her friends, and then her best friend came. And her best friend was very conservative businesswoman who wouldn't have gone to a psychic except if she was in some kind of crisis that nothing else was helping her.
right.
And they just took it and ran. Kim transcribed the tape of her reading and then called me and wanted to talk about what did it mean, and nobody had ever done that in all the readings I'd given. We
Mm,
never talked about it. We just I do the reading, record it, and they'd take it and go and come back. I figured they were getting some value of it.
yeah.
Otherwise, why would you come back all the
Yeah.
time? But they wanted to talk about it. And I think it was simultaneously that they had the idea to invite me to a group. And I had realization that, oh, here's the group.
Mm,
And then I called them and they're like, oh, we were just saying we should have you, blah, blah. And so, and the three of us, I think to understand the gist of it, and
mhm,
at the time, we didn't quite know what it meant. We could never have guessed where it was going.
right.
But when they asked, "Who are you?" in a triad reading, and the antenna voices said, "You can call us angels."
Mm,
And I was skeptical, but the three of us decided that we didn't care who it was because what they were telling us was literally changing our lives.
mm,
And what these angels said was they had this theory that they were devising for a way to resolve conflict that would be the byproduct of it would be world peace.
wow.
And they needed humans to test their theory, which meant they needed to find people who would actually have actual conflicts,
Mm,
but somehow have the wherewithal in the middle of them to stop and go, oh, hey, these angels just told us a new way to do this.
mm,
Let's go get the transcript.
right.
And that's who we were. And that's what happened because we did eventually have a conflict and did just that, our first conflict. You
Mhm.
know, sitting at the table like, well, you, and no, you. And
Right.
I was like, wait a minute, we just did this. Let's go get the transcript. And what popped out right away was
Mhm.
if you're emotionally engaged in a conflict,
Right.
the root of your part is within you. And we all sort of just went, the three of us just like whoosh, and each turned to going, me coming back to the table saying, okay, here's what I should be doing better.
Mm.
And then Kim could come to the table and say, yeah, and here's what I need to do. Rather than,
You.
yeah, pointing your
Uh,
finger. And it was such a monumental moment for all of us.
right.
But most profoundly was for me, I went to work that night. I was singing in a bar in Minneapolis, and there was a waitress at the hotel where I was working who wanted nothing to do with me. She didn't like me, and I didn't care, but it just was noticeable. I
Yeah.
walked in that night, and she just couldn't get enough of me. Oh, Barbara, do you like Patti Smith? I've got a bunch of cassettes. And she put $20 in my tip jar. And I thought, this is what these angels were talking about.
Mm,
That if we do it here first, if we resolve our conflict here first,
right.
naturally stuff can manifest around us that we couldn't achieve if we tried. I couldn't have gone into work that and said, "Hey, Sally, why do you hate me?" Or,
Oh
I
gosh,
could,
I know.
right? You couldn't manipulate that. It was like
No.
clearly a sign, and we were having these kinds of things happen to us, all of us in our lives, involving our families and ex-husbands, and
Mhm.
these little miracle things starting to happen as we did this work.
That's so cool. I love that it's like, yeah, definitely like changing yourself and it like kind of emanates out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not like revolutionary. I mean, that's like as within, so without. But
Yeah.
what was revolutionary was that they actually gave us sort of these step by step instructions about how to do it in a way that was like a rudimental change
Right.
within,
Right.
not just a transcendent one like meditation
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. It just is really rudimental to
Wow.
find yourself, catch yourself in the act of whatever. Anyway, yes,
Yeah.
it's
I
pretty
mean,
crazy.
I know you were like, oh, it's not revolutionary or like hard, but it is hard. You know what I mean? Like it is
Oh, yeah.
hard. Like, especially in like the situation you described when everybody's pointing fingers and upset, like, ooh, like when do you somebody's got to, pause and be like, well, hold on, you know, like, oh, we got tools for this,
Yeah.
That's the hard
Yeah,
part. Ooh,
it is. And this process, which we call conflict revolution,
yeah.
is designed completely to be a standalone sovereign process that you don't need anybody else. I mean,
Mm,
it helps oftentimes to have a coach. I've
sure.
often called one of my conflict revolutionary friends to say, "Hey, help me with this. I can't figure it out." But it's meant to be self-monitoring, that we self-monitor ourselves to bring alignment that then naturally manifests.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. Very cool. I like that whole approach a lot. Um, and so let's see. So what would you say the so you have like conflict revolution. What is that part of the world peace? Uh,
Yes.
it is. Yeah. It's part of the plan.
Yes. Because these angels, you see, they taught us this process. We had our fights and we had many, many conflicts through the years and have continually applied the principles to them. And so while we don't actually work together, we have a publishing company together. We moved all of our materials that had anything to do with this topic back together under in one library.
Mm,
And I'm the, I guess, the CEO, going out and bringing the message and doing the teaching and channeling Einstein
hmm.
and talking about world peace because nobody knows what to do.
Yep. Yep. I agree. Especially nowadays when it seems like, everything's up in arms at the moment.
Well, and what it feels like is like we've been meditating for centuries. Why does it only get worse and stuff
Yeah.
like that? And that's why I like conflict revolution because it presents the peace movement not as something that you get together with a bunch of people and do, or that you have to add your energy to, tip the scales.
Right.
It's about everybody understanding how important taking care of our own domain is in relationship to world peace.
Oof. Yes. Couldn't agree more. Oh
And
my.
and so when I say I'm looking for the participation of the willing, people who are willing to experiment with this Einsteinian process that we have of conflict resolution, taking a new way to resolve conflict first here. And when we
Hmm.
do it here, miraculous things happen around us that we is greater than we could have thought,
Yeah. No
planned
kidding.
if we were in charge.
Right. You get to be surprised, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. How is it going to blow my mind this time?
Yeah.
Something I never could have thought of.
Yeah. That's like the best. So you did, I know you channel Einstein. Can you tell us sort of like the story of how that came about and then how it kind of weaves into conflict revolution?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Cool.
after we put out Diaries in 1997, we got a literary agent,
Mhm.
and she got a call from a tabloid in London, a paranormal tabloid, and they were looking for an interview with Princess Diana from Beyond the Grave and the 1 year anniversary of her
Wow.
death. And I'd never done such a thing. And that's me, oh, let's see if we can try. And I channeled it, typing, channeled both the questions and the answers, and then printed it off and read it and felt its powerful. Uh, I could hear her talking and
Wow.
just the detail of what she said. And her main message was about peace. If everybody who put flowers in the palace would make peace, we could manifest peace. And the tabloid, even though they flew me out to New York and spent a lot of time with me, they didn't want it because it wasn't, they wanted
Oh,
stuff on Camilla and Charles that
yeah.
nobody knew, call in a psychic to see if she could, dig up the dirt. So my agent and I made a list of people, the other dead people we thought might want to talk. And I would imagine in the same fashion, I'd go to them and say, "Hey, Elvis, do you want to talk?" And he'd say, "No, I'm getting in too much trouble already." And then Nicole Brown Simpson said yes.
Wow.
And so we started doing this. But when we got to John Kennedy, he said, we're going to tell you who's going to be next. You don't have to do this asking around. We're working on this book and we want you to transcribe it from us.
Mhm.
And so that's Albert Einstein wasn't even on our list.
Right.
How sad is that? And
Yeah.
so John Kennedy had to intervene and say, "All right, no, you're missing the whole point." And that when I channeled Albert Einstein, that was the voice of my channeling.
Wow.
And that was the voice of sound all those years ago. And that
Wow.
was a powerful presence in my music. So then we put out a book called Party of 12, The Afterlife Interviews. But that's how I met Einstein. And then I wanted to just do a book for him.
Hmm.
And on the 100-year anniversary of E equals MC squared and all his other four miracle year, whatever, I did a channeled 6 or 7 sessions and transcribed them and set about to edit. And I didn't know what he was going to say. It just, and it turns out he delivered a unified field theory, which is something he couldn't do in life.
Hmm.
And it included what he called the map of human consciousness with these 3 human dimensions that we work with, and a scientific quantifiable definition of compassion with a capital C as the 5th fundamental force of the universe, as the creative intelligence that uses the other 4 fundamental forces to impel the creation of the physical world one step at a time.
Ooh.
And that was very profound experience. And I put out Imagining Einstein, Essays on M Theory, World Peace, and the Science of Compassion. And when that came out, I fell into a path of synchronicity. I decided this was really important information. And this was 2007.
Hmm.
That seems like a really peaceful long time ago from the brink we're sometimes on today.
Yeah.
But so I left and traveled the world, got invited all over the world to teach and train and do this peace work. And yeah,
Oh. So were you saying that so you mentioned like sound, right? The first sort of, I don't know, being or thing that you had channeled early on was Einstein essentially, but and it's sort of communicating differently.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
part of the plan had to be to psychologically and spiritually and emotionally, intuitively, intellectually prepare me as a human
Yeah.
to deliver this information and to understand it. And I think to be psychologically, and they said later on when it finally all started to come together, and it still took a long time, they said we couldn't have gone up to you the
Right.
first thing and say, "Hey, I'm Einstein, and this is Hitler. He was in Party 12."
Wow.
And the way as it happened, this sort of unfolding of it still was very taxing to me. I
Yeah.
I was afraid people were going to really think I was nuts. Did I really? I'm not a scientist,
Yeah.
is what he's saying. Is this even a viable thing that he's saying, that the source of everything begins in the center of the planet and that it operates like a black hole? I
Wow.
didn't know, but I had to trust.
Yeah.
And now it turns out, yeah, it's
Wow.
all coming to be.
I love that he's like laying out like, I mean, the way that you explain it is so beautiful, but I mean, I can't imagine getting that information, you know what I mean? Like that's a lot to kind of, it's a lot to put together. And then you gotta like you wrote a, you communicated it out. That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is an endurance. I have a resilience
Right.
because of it. Yeah.
Ah. Well, okay, so this is like a strange, not strange, but like,
Oh, good.
yeah, like strange questions. So how do you, because I know for myself, like doing sort of that kind of work, I do get drained. So, like, what is your process to like kind of, not be drained anymore? Like, what do you have like a whole system of like, I gotta like drink a lot of water and I gotta rest or like, you know what I mean? After
Yeah,
getting all that
no, I know
information.
exactly.
Yeah.
And well, I have to say, it's like when you're a marathon runner and you go out for a mile and a half.
Yeah.
It's so there's some of that resiliency in it. But also through the years, I've learned a more the process that I myself teach and adhere to
Mm,
has become even more sort of razor sharp, so that I can pace myself through like what I've just been through. I've spent 3 months traveling all around
right.
Europe on trains, and I went to Romania, and then I drove across the Southwest for 3 days, and then drove up into the mountains. And there's a kind of a resiliency that conflict revolution
Mm,
gives you, because we process emotion in a completely different way than normally, than like it's a healing process and we have to, no, there's a bunch of it and we harvest it and we
mm.
channel it in a way that it's not attached to thought, or if it
Wow.
is attached to thought, it's attached to the highest level of thought, for the greatest
Mm.
good. So that, because it's the fuel of manifestation of the physical world.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
it is a self-regulating, self-loving process that is regenerative.
Hmm.
And I am living testimony, because I just I was amazed at my resilience through all of that. Because of that, just gotta surrender
Yeah.
right into the moment.
I love it. I love that they gave you all the tools kind of ahead, ahead of time. And then
Yes.
here's all this and other information. That's amazing. Ah, so have there been any like, because you're channeling Einstein and he's giving you all this like very intriguing and amazing information. Have there been any like scientists that like weighed in about like what he was telling you? Have you had an opportunity to chat with them?
I just appeared at the Science of Consciousness Conference, the 30th annual Science of
Wow.
Consciousness Conference, put on by the University of Arizona, Tucson, by a man named Stuart Hameroff, who is the director of the Science of Consciousness Center and Department at the university. They've been doing this for 30 years.
Wow.
And I got, surprisingly, I always apply for these things. And through the years, they don't, TED Talks don't even haven't even thought about me. And,
Mm-hmm.
but I got picked to be, it was the, entry level presentation where you make a big poster and you stand there. It wasn't like a stage, but I didn't care because
Yeah.
I've prayed. I was like,
Right.
get me in front of the scientists.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely fascinating. It was affirming. And even though, like, there were some talks, because these are scientists, these are lefty brain mathematicians, astrobiologists, they're just whatever. And they're all frothing up with all this left brain science stuff about
Mm,
consciousness. And even though I don't understand all of it, I can put the pieces on the maps.
right.
But I had one that just really sparked it off was a man named Thomas Campbell wrote a book called My Theory of Everything, and he's a physicist. And the people who represent him were there at the conference with Booth. And I said, tell me his theory of everything. And as they explained his mathematical functioning and all the scientific stuff he was really doing, not like me, just talking to dead people. He was actually doing the mathematics and he was
Right.
explaining it, how step by step, and I could see it all on the map. And we talked, this fellow and I, and by the end of it, he said, you know what, you need to come and speak at this conference we're doing with Thomas Campbell because if what we're saying is true, Thomas Campbell is the actual physicist who is proving what Einstein delivered in that book to me in the unified field theory and the maps of human. Well, they don't have the science of compassion, which is the thing nobody else has in their
Right.
theories. And they don't, the maps of human consciousness are such a mind boggling, simple, but understandable way that human consciousness interacts with energy
Mm,
to create physical matter.
yeah.
And there, it's all there. So anyway, so yeah, and then I also shared a poster back with a scientist. His name is Jim Grood from MIT. And we talked about a lot of things, but the gist of his thing to me was keep doing what you're doing because you're on to something. And
Mm,
I got to give my Einstein book to Deepak Chopra,
wow.
who said, looked me in the eye and said he'd read it.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of, and I just came away from there thinking, I need to present this to all of you lefty brains and get you over into the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? I watch people ping, 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 all kind of like have these flashes like, oh, it's so simple. It's but elegant.
Yeah.
And it works.
Wow. Yeah, I like that the idea is to kind of bring the two things together, right? Bring the human emotional part of us with that lefty scientific part, right? They should have more conversations.
Yes, absolutely. And And our maps and our process show you how, if you develop this self-regulating, self-monitoring approach,
Hmm.
that you can bring balance to those. You understand there's the intellect is the divine masculine, and the
Yeah.
intuition is the divine feminine, and the intuition is telling you the next most advantageous step for the good of everything. And then intellect's job is to do that, is to make the decision. And, if intuition says turn left, intellect sends the message to grab the steering wheel and turn to the left. But
Mhm.
intellect can say no,
That's true.
intellect can turn right.
Yeah.
So we teach people to line to compassion, because there's no other thing that your divine masculine wants to do but to serve the divine feminine. That's really its most powerful position, is to be waiting for what intuition is going to say and then do it.
Ah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I do my own I do my own sort of study around the Hermetic Kabbalah. So a lot of that stuff is like, oh yeah, I like see that sort of balance and what you're talking about for sure. Um, that's an interesting thought because that is part of sort of my own studies, like the divine masculine is, to listen to the divine feminine, but I feel like, we need to be a little louder maybe or something, you know?
Well, it's a cooperative thing.
That's
It's
right.
like these three human dimensions that we work with,
Mm-hmm.
that we gain mastery over, are like spiritual organs. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a heart, we have a kidney, we have a stomach. They're all different. They have their own function. They
Yeah.
work together, and you treat them differently. If something's wrong with your stomach, you don't do the same thing if something's wrong with your heart. And the same is true with when there's a blockage in your emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You deal with it differently than if your intellect is wild horses running out of control.
That's right.
And
Mm.
so you, and that in that way you learn to take care of yourself, like we're all sort of special needs, right?
Yeah.
So we learn to take care of ourselves and align ourselves. And I think intellect, well, what Einstein says is the root of all conflicts in the whole world, whether it's an internal one, illness or whatever, or external, is between the intuition and the intellect.
Mm.
Wars, cancer, intuition is always going to be impelling you to be the highest optimum divine creature, and intellect is going to be saying no and making different decisions. And that perfectly manifests then that conflict within each of us into the
Yeah.
lens. It's part of all the bigger conflicts.
Whew. Yeah. So I like, yeah. So make it, yeah. So kind of boiling it down to yourself as like the one that can make the change, right? Like the macro, micro you. Um, yeah, instead of like going out there and trying to change everybody else.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so fruitless.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so hard. I know.
I know.
But that's the job. So we're here for it.
Yeah.
Um, Well, okay. Well, yeah, thank you for walking us through all of, conflict revolution and how Einstein fits in with that. Um, so what does your sort of day-to-day sort of spiritual life look like with like your either with your channeling or conflict revolution? Like how does that look day to day for somebody or for yourself?
Well, for me, because I've been doing this in some form or another for so long,
Mm,
it became a part of, I'd say, my gig culture. I had other jobs that I did, and I did graphic design, and
yeah.
I was the business manager for the art center in the town where I live in Wisconsin and such. But when things started to get even worse in the world, and I realized I had this amazing information and I
Yeah.
wasn't getting any younger.
Yeah.
And so I made a very big commitment to put all the library under Synergy Alliance with the Psychic Sorority, and go off on a peace mission, on a world peace tour, for the rest of my life.
Wow. Woo.
It's my mission,
Yeah.
and I retired myself from all of my other little gigs, And I set about, I started on July 9th of 2023, the anniversary of the Einstein-Russell Manifesto, which was his last paper pleading with the governments of the world to resolve their conflicts peacefully. Otherwise, no one will survive World War III.
Yeah.
And that was 1955. So, yeah, and I started with I have a beautiful spiritualist church in northern Minnesota that I've been a part of for a long time, and I started with a big channel there, and then I left home on October 15th, rented out my home, and just have been traveling, speaking, some teaching, some just talking. I traveled all across the UK. I gave books. I went to give books to people in the UK that are influential people that I want to read it. And but then I was asked to come and speak at this conference on the science of consciousness, and
Yeah.
it was like the biggest moment of the whole. I've been praying, get me to the
Yeah.
scientists, and now I know. Now I know that yes, it's exactly what I think it is, and things are shifting, and a lot of plans are coming in the making. But in the meantime, I'm working on a course, a coursework that you can download,
Well,
and I haven't been doing as much Zoom teaching, but I did after all these years because I've been training it since 1999. So
yeah.
I finally put it into something I could do on Zoom. It's still not optimal. It's much better to be in a room,
Right.
12 people, everybody brings their conflict.
Right.
It's great fun. It's
Yeah.
it's as much fun. Anyway, so I'm hoping to do more of that, and in the meantime, I'm moving across the United States. I think in the next 3 or 4 months to get settled in a place in the South, and then I'll be going back to Romania with my friend Carmen, who did all my events there
Mhm.
before, and just focused on the mission. And it's exciting because when you do that, I don't know if I've ever done it quite this intently. Like this is all I'm doing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, well, by golly, if your life didn't like prepare you for it, right? Like you said, like you're used to kind of gigging,
Yeah,
traveling, being a musician, like wow, what a cool path that your life is on and like what a great purpose, That's so cool.
thank you. I absolutely agree. And I love that, I just turned 69 this year, and I have a little Kia Soul right
Yeah.
now that I built out to sleep in, but it's too short.
Oh,
And here I am looking for a little bit bigger, like maybe a Honda Odyssey, but something that I can, because I don't know, I've been traveling since I was 17, and it's such a part of life. I love it. But the world is wants this conversation now.
I agree. I think you predicted it. It's here. It's happening. It's all like going the way that you're seeing it. So that's amazing.
Yeah,
Well, can you tell everybody like where they can find you, like on the internet or in
on the
person,
internets.
maybe? Yeah.
Yes, I'm on barbarawith.com. BARBARAWITH.com. I'm also at Synergy Alliance LLC. That's the publishing company, all the books. You
Mm.
can get there through Barbara With. Barbara With, I have a little bit more. I'm an investigative reporter, and I'm also doing this series on propaganda about how
Mm.
to dismantle propaganda. But right now, I'm doing my World Peace Tour diaries, and I'm just about to release number 7. So I'm excited. I think I'll be doing this for a long time. And
Mhm.
in person, I will be at the Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church in if we air this in time on May 26th,
Oh, yeah.
speaking and singing. And then I I don't know. I'm not sure when my next live thing will be until the fall comes,
Yeah.
but yeah, but we're
They're
moving forward.
they're keeping some things and surprises for you again.
Thank
So
you. Yes,
yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Oh wow. Well, so I'm so happy that we got connected and like, yeah, so cool. I love all the conflict revolution. The Einstein's message is so beautiful. You're working, getting their foot in the door with the scientists, like, doing some really wonderful work, Barbara.
Well, thank you, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me,
Yeah.
and I just love to have these conversations, especially
Right.
with the young people like yourself, like the young
I
people,
know. I'm
but
45.
really,
Yeah.
well, I know, but you
Yeah.
are, and having been through all those phases of
Yeah.
people not really getting it to where now people really want it, it's so
Yes.
heartening. So thank you and keep it up. I know how hard work it is to
Yeah.
do this stuff.
Oh,
So
I know.
good for you.
Thank you. Um, so kind of the last thing, you shared so much wisdom with us already, but are there some parting words of wisdom that you would like to share?
I would like to just encourage people to always bear in mind that this inner work is the work of world peace. We can't be looking at the outside world as a gauge for if our inner work is doing any good. We can do it on a microcosm, right? Because if we do the work on the microcosm, we will see changes in all those things here. We
Yeah.
just have to keep our heads down and keep doing what we're doing and know it's making a difference in the greater macrocosm to pull us back from this insanity of World War III. And I have all the faith in the world that we're on our way.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm also very optimistic um, about that too, because like you said, like the little changes that are happening, I didn't see this kind of stuff 10, 15 years ago, people talking about these things. So
And there's
yeah,
so many more people now, so many more people.
so many. Yeah.
So good on us.
Good on us. Let's get that word out there. Oh, Barbara, thanks again. I'm so happy to chat with you today.
Yeah, me too.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again. And have me back.
Yes, you're always welcome back.
Okay. All
For
right,
sure.
good. We'll do it again.
Your support means the world to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with others who might find this content valuable. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more enlightening discussions. Your engagement helps us grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of the Casual Temple community.